Hello, my friends. Welcome to an introduction to the 100-day series of neck and shoulder releasing Qigong practice. This is a sequence based upon the snake and turtle Qigong spinal practice that emphasizes and draws out all of the healing emphasis upon the shoulders and the neck. So if you tend to have stiff shoulders and neck, or a limited range of motion, or are just trying to learn to be through from the perspective of the internal martial arts or Qigong practice, then this is a series for you. And honestly, this is part of the sequence of Qigong training that I'm putting together because we need to systematically release each of the joints and the compound joint structures in our body in order to improve and to continue healing. So I highly recommend this series, and I thought that I would offer an introduction to the movements. So this is not one of the follow along with me and practice sessions. There are plenty of those. This is simply an introduction to, hey, this is what this movement is. Then there's this movement. And so I'll talk our way through it without doing the repetitions. So if you're looking to practice, switch to a different video. But if you're looking to learn about the practice, then you're in the right place. And of course, we begin with standing posture. Please go ahead and watch some of the videos about basic standing posture. I'll have them linked down below. And you want to make sure that your body is symmetrical, following all of the good principles, so that you have the chance to release this tension that we tend to have of gripping the neck and gripping the shoulders. And so there's this constant emphasis upon letting everything hang open. And for most of the sessions, I will introduce some sort of healing tool, device, method, or suggestion about how to release neck and shoulder tension throughout the series so that you'll learn a lot more about your options, other ways to release chronic neck and shoulder tension throughout the series. And so often when we're doing standing posture in the beginning, I'll be introducing those ideas and suggestions. And so once we do several minutes of this posture, then we'll often start circling around the belly. And there's not a lot going on with the physical movement here. You're simply softening your shoulders, softening your elbows, your wrists, your hands, very important. And then making progressively larger and larger circles across the abdomen, and then spiraling back in, with your awareness resting beneath your palms, inside your body if possible, and allowing the softness of your hands to penetrate into your belly, because it's very important that we learn to soften our core, to release any tension that might otherwise be collecting here in the center. Very important. And then oftentimes, of course, we'll stop resting here. And anytime I pause with my hands on the navel, or we do a movement called closing, where we systematically soften downward through the body, the neck, the shoulders, the chest, the back, the belly, and our hands again rest on top of our navel, our awareness is resting beneath our palms as best we can. For most people, it starts with just feeling the navel, or maybe just behind it. But there is a space between the navel and the spine that eventually we will allow our awareness to rest in. It's called the middle elixir field, the middle dantian. And we allow our awareness to rest there and accumulate. Our mind grows quiet, our breath is calm, and we have that moment of stillness in between many of the movements. And so you'll see that a lot. We often call it closing, this practice here. So from there, we slide our hands around the waist without leaning back or pushing our hips forward or tightening our shoulders. Please just maintain this comfortable standing posture. Hands rest on the lower back. If this is uncomfortable for your hands, you can always turn your palms around or place them on the sides of your body, because everybody's a little bit different with what they're going through. And we will warm the back, softening the glutes, softening the back, a gentle warming massage, not trying to push too hard, just to get some movement and circulation through that area. And then we take some time to release and soften the sides of the neck. And you'll hear me talk often about the need to lengthen. I'm opening this side rather than closing this side. You can see the difference if I try to pull my head down versus if instead I lengthen this side. So my spine is opening rather than closing and constricting. So we'll release side to side with that. And then we do a movement called left and right, yin and yang, balancing, where if I was to divide myself in half, I would allow the weight to flow down through one half of my body, I'll say to my right side here, into the ground, and then I allow that weight to wash down through the left side of my body. So one whole half of my body becomes stable, sunken, energy flows down through it. I just release the weight through this half. And this whole other half, the yang side, we'll say, becomes light and free and open. And so again, we sink down, one side becomes light and free. One side heavy, one side light. And we allow our arms to hang and to hang. This is a wonderful practice. I highly recommend it. And this logic, this kind of weight pouring from side to side is constant throughout the form. And so by becoming good at it, it actually brings out a lot of the healing qualities within the form. So it's very worthwhile practice. And then as with all of the movements throughout the form, we will take a bunch of the movements and combine them and turn them into one of the snake and turtle classic movements. And so if we combine the last three movements, here, releasing the neck, and then this left and right, yin and yang balancing, that turns into snake softening its sides, waving side to side. We'll spend time doing that, and then again, we close. And so you can see how those individual components bring out and inform the actual combination movement toward the end. And we'll continuously do that throughout the practice. It's a wonderful way to learn to release your neck and shoulders. And then from there, we soften open the hips and pelvis. If I get a little bit closer here, you can see that if I circle my hips, like a belly dancer or perhaps a Polynesian dancer, we'll do those kinds of circles. And then from these smaller ones, I'll start to make larger circles with my head staying more or less in the center. And then from there, we'll move up and we will circle the upper spine and the neck all the way around. And of course, I'm making the movements larger than you would need to. If you have a very painful neck and shoulders, which of course many people do, you would want to make the movement much smaller. And that, of course, is the case with all of these practices. Please, if you're not sure if you can do these practices, do consult your doctor or an expert, someone who can tell you whether or not these things are safe. Some people are fragile, and I'm not there with you. And if you're at a fragile point in your life, maybe you've been injured recently, maybe you're pregnant, please be extra safe. It's always worth being safe. These movements should just make you feel soft and open and free, unless you're already dealing with a constant chronic pain issue, then we don't want any pain involved in this at all. Chronic pain people just have to learn to deal with a certain amount of pain until they heal. That's a separate issue. Most of us, this should feel completely comfortable for most of us. And we want to allow that kind of freedom all the way around with any of these movements, feeling light and open and effortless, so that everything at the end makes you feel more comfortable, not less comfortable. And then we take some time looking up and down, softening our throat, softening the back of our neck, and then, of course, we close and take some time there. See how easy all of this is? From there, we spend some time softening the shoulders. And so I take this whole shoulder complex, including my shoulder blade, and I make full range of motion circles. We'll do it on one side, both directions, then the other. Then we do both sides at once, and then oppositional movements. And I give more and more specific instruction throughout the series about how to release your shoulders in the correct way. But as long as you know what you're going to be doing, then you'll have a sense of what to look for. And then from there, we take the time to soften our neck in this extending circle. Different way to open the neck than before. Lengthening through the neck. And then very slowly, we include the shoulders and the whole length of the spine. So we end up with this wonderful Snake softening its front and its back, waving front to back, like that. And then again, we close. So you can see how simple this set is. Very simple circular movements, and we mix them together to create more complicated movements that open the whole body, but they're all predicated upon these very simple, comfortable circles. So don't worry, you will definitely be able to find your way through it, especially if you have some experience with the Snake and Turtle Qigong set already. So let's move into the series for Black Snake, twisting around a tree. And to do that, first we take some time to release the neck even further in certain directions. And so I'm going to be looking left and right, except that I'm going to be doing it in a path that goes up over my shoulder and down toward the ground behind me. And of course, you won't crane your neck to look all the way around to the ground behind you, but that's the trajectory of your movement. Even if you only end up looking here, you don't have to look all the way down there. That's perfectly fine. And so as I make that, my chin will lift a little bit, and I'll look back and behind. And at the same time, part of what makes this movement so effective and special is that as I look to my right, for instance, my left shoulder opens, my palm turns forward, the front of my shoulder softens open, and I'll be looking up and over. And so not only am I releasing my neck, but I'm softening all of this deep tissue beneath the collarbone and the front of the shoulder, where so many people have this rolling forward habit. It's a wonderful practice. And then after several of those, most of these movements we do 9 times, both directions or both sides of the body. We adjust it. After looking up and over, this time we're going to look down and up, as though you're looking up toward a mountain behind you. Very simple, with the same shoulder opening on the opposite side. Quite easy. And after that, and we feel nice and soft on the sides of our neck, we open our arms to the sides, and we place our palms on the back of our head, which I have to be careful about with these headphones on. And what I'm going to do is lengthen horizontally and vertically. We tend to have this constant compression and tension here that you'll hear me mention a lot. This is a place of great problems and pain for people. And so we're trying to spread it open horizontally, spread it open vertically, and all the while strengthen some of these postural muscles that grow weak from this tech neck position. And so we will take some time to move this way. We'll also turn our head with the help of our hands, which both softens my shoulder in an unusual way, and it helps to turn the head a little further perhaps than we would make use of without the help of our hands doing a passive rotation, which can feel really nice. And then we will look up and down, gently resting the weight of the hands on the back of the head. Barely any weight at all. And so that as you're looking up and down, there's a little bit of extra weight to help strengthen the musculature back here. And then, similarly, the muscles that help support the head in this direction, these thin postural structural muscles, we need to strengthen those as well. So to do that, we will lengthen upward and then gently rest the hands on top of the head. And we're not pulling down hard again, it's just the weight of the hands. It's barely any weight at all. And that downward pressure helps to strengthen those muscles that are lengthening us upward. And then, of course, we again settle our arms down. And then we spend some time doing a fun movement that, depending on the culture you come from, may or may not look familiar. You'll notice that my face stays forward, and I move my head side to side. This one, for most people, at least in the cultures where I grew up, feels impossible at first, but with practice is very possible. It releases some deep musculature along the sides. So in the beginning, as we do it, don't strain anything, just give it a try. See if you can find a way to make this work without turning your face or leaning your head, which is what most people do. And eventually this relieves wonderful lines of strain deep in the neck with practice. And then finally for that series, we simply shake out our neck and our spine a little bit, and then we close. So a wonderful sequence for relieving neck tension just within those short few movements in preparation for this black snake twining around the tree. And then immediately after we settle, there's a movement that looks like this. The little finger touches the body, traveling up. The palm will turn around so that it's as though the back of your hand rests on the top of your head, and you press your palm upward above your head without lifting your shoulder too much. This stays balanced, pressing upward. At the same time that this is going up, one hand below will press down in the opposite direction, so your palms are moving away from each other. You settle your tailbone, let the crown of your head float up, and lengthen your spine. Looks like this. Lovely little practice. Again, a wonderful preparation for black snake twisting around the tree. What we're going to do is combine that movement with the various neck movements we were practicing, and you'll see what this looks like. So I'll face this way. One hand will rest on my lower back, one to make sure that we're not doing this kind of thing, breaking the angle of our spine, leaning back. We want to have a little bit of fullness here so that my lower back is supported. This also puts my shoulder blade into a really advantageous position. My other hand will float up and around to the back of my head, and I'll gently turn to look behind me, to look up and back, and then to look down and back. And then I will release my back hand, my lower hand, press up above the head, just as we were practicing, and then this hand sinks down. And as it sinks down, there's a release of tension from your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, your neck, your chest and upper back, your middle back and your waist, your lower back, all the way down to your feet. We'll do that several times, and then we'll close. Always returning to stillness. Again, as a reminder, you're not trying to learn these movements right now. This is just an overview to give you a sense of what the form that we are practicing will look like, to make a space in your mind so that when you see it during the practice set, it doesn't look completely new, but rather you said, okay, I recognize that. Oh, I know what we're going to be practicing here, so you can get better at it. And if you need individual practices for each of these movements, those are all available on the Snake and Turtle channel already. And so there's already extensive training there if you want that. But within the practice series itself, the 100-day series, you'll get plenty of training for the movements. This is simply to give you a sense of what's coming, because that's a very useful way to learn. We create a space within which there's already fertile, prepared ground. Okay, so that was the Black Snake series. We'll now do the series that leads into the White Snake movement. And we start with this lovely swinging motion. The hands lift up in front of you, and like you're bouncing a ball in front of you, and your hands just swing, this kind of swing. You're just letting them go. This is a great practice, even just throughout the day, especially if you have hand and wrist pain. And then we evolve it a little bit with one foot in front. Our hands will cross, open, and our elbows and shoulder blades sink down the back, and then we fall forward. Phoenix opens its wings. Really lovely for the upper back, especially, and shoulders. And then we move into this shape. Palm forward. This part of the hand is called the tiger's mouth. It slides up, elbow lifts, slides down, palm forward. Very easy. And then we do a movement that further softens the shoulder blade, opens the chest and the upper back in preparation for the white snake movement. It looks like this. Stepping out, As though you're embracing a large tree, palms turn out, push forward and outward, so the hands are falling away from you, outward. And then elbows turn down, palms turn forward, and your shoulder blades start to sink down your back, which with practice they will get better and better at doing. Palms forward all the way down until you rest by your hands, by your legs. And we repeat that several times. Excellent practice. And so now after that short series, all of this is especially open and pliable. And it's a really good time now to practice a movement called white snake, sticking out its tongue. It looks like this. Great practice for continuing this release. And then, of course, closing. Closing, you can tell, is very important. And now we move into the series that leads to everyone's favorite movement called Golden Snake, wrapped around the tree. And so we're going to start releasing the shoulders at a slightly different angle. And I use a movement that looks like this. Isn't this fun? I nickname it the Emperor Penguin. This is both directions as well. So nice. And then we soften by turning the waist like this. We'll do this on both sides. Also a movement that looks like this. This is a different direction to open your shoulder that we haven't really done much yet. And so this is a nice preparation for that. A movement that looks like this, which is really fun. And sliding down your sides. Sometimes called competing dragons. And then the flower hiding under a leaf. Don't worry about trying to get it right. Just get a sense of it, maybe try it out a little bit just now, see what it feels like, but the form itself will teach it to you. And then the ever favorite, the ever popular golden snake. All of these angles and movements combine, and we get a movement that looks like this. Again, lots of videos teaching it. Don't worry about learning it now. Isn't that fun? And then, of course, closing. So at this point, we're over 2/3 of the way through this whirlwind tour of the neck and shoulder release set. I hope you're getting a sense of the kinds of movements that we do. Slightly wider stance. We open and we close. And then after a little while, we go the opposite direction. I open and I close. Everything softens down. And then, of course, I do a closing movement. At this point, this is a really marvelous and relaxing way to feel settled. And then from here, soften this way with my chin. We did the opposite direction earlier. Now we're going to go this direction. We also practice a movement that allows you to lengthen the front of your body, soften your hips backward, your hips travel back behind you, hands sliding down, and then your hips travel forward and sliding up. And so that opens your hips in this particular direction. And then we work even a little bit further on this, opening and opening along your front and your back with the movement that looks like this. Lengthening open the front, lengthening open the back, lengthening open the front, lengthening opening the back. And then as we combine these movements into a movement called the turtle drinking chi, it becomes a marvelous practice that for me is especially helpful for my neck when I suffered from a lot of pain. Traveling like this, settling down, and lengthening upward. Isn't that nice? And then closing. And then another lengthening and opening practice. Your whole body lengthens, your spine lengthens as you push up against the sky. And then we're going to soften our wrists, soften our elbows, soften our shoulders while our hands are up. And then we're simply going to, again, relax down the body. So we relax our wrists, our elbows, our shoulders and neck, our chest, our ribs, all the way down our spine, our hips, our knees, our feet. Just this wave of release going down. And then, as though we're gathering up the earth, we allow it to flow up through our legs. We lead by standing up with the top of our head, not by standing up with our back. Like this. And then closing. And then a lovely movement, swinging hands, here called giant snake shakes its tail. And we'll do various versions of these swings. And again, just as a reminder, if you ever have hand and wrist pain, you don't have to worry about banging your hands against your body. You just pause a little before. This is a nice way to soften up the neck, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, and of course the waist. And then we settle into a gentle standing meditation. This is basically the ending of the form. And so we want to take time to get really quiet inside, to let our awareness sink inside our body, our breath to become invisible in a sense, our whole body to relax. Because at this point we've been doing the form for an hour and 10 minutes. And so this is a good chance to restore and recuperate some of those energies as we settle. And then we will do a gentle full body massage, rubbing our face, our neck, our chest, our legs. We'll rub our arms. And then a movement that shakes the whole body, called Golden Rooster Shakes Its Feathers. And then, of course, one more closing. And we will have finished. And so you will have a sense now of the whole 90-minute practice. So you don't have to worry about seeing it for the first time now. Now you know what it looks like. And now as you enter into the form, you already have a sense of what you're going to be doing. And so you can more easily slip into the practice like a warm bath and just begin to move your joints. And you can see how simple the movements are. Everything is just this repetitive, comfortable, open practice. And by doing them every day for 100 days using these correct principles that I'll share with you, your body will slowly open more and more. Circulation will be restored. A lot of pain for most people tends to be relieved. Again, always being careful with your own condition in case you need help from somebody else. But for the most part, these are very safe movements. We're just taking our time. And by adding them to your lifestyle, taking them into your daily practice, after 100 days, this has just become something that you do. You move your body this way. Everything has become more free. And as you continue other forms of Qigong practice, and ideally with the other spaces in your body that I'll be introducing, everything will be restored to a more natural condition. Your neck will be restored to this comfortable length. Your shoulders will fall more naturally into a comfortable position rather than something like this, perhaps. And over time, your whole body starts to open like a flower to the sun. There's room for your breath. It's easier to quiet your mind. Your nervous system is more calm. And that, of course, is the point. And so I look forward to having you there. Please do place your comments or questions down below if you have them, and enjoy your practice.